Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Cutera Cantika Asnan. I want to explain about internal processing. In SLA, internal cognitive processing refers to how learners mentally handle and develop their understanding of a new language. Within this framework, several internal mechanisms like the filter, the organizer, and the monitor that play significant roles. The first one is the filter or affective filter. The affective filter is a psychological mechanism that affects language acquisition based on emotional variables like motivation, self confidence, and anxiety. When the affective filter is low, learners are more open and receptive to language input, which leads to better language acquisition. On the other hand, if the affective filter is high due to factors like fear of making mistakes, lack of motivation, or low confidence, it can block or hinder the intake of language input, making acquisition less effective. This filter is not about the cognitive ability to understand the language, but rather the emotional readiness to process the language input. For example, let's say you're nervous about speaking English in front of a group. That nervousness might make it harder to remember words or focus, acting like the filter that blocks your ability to learn and speak comfortably. The second one is the organizer or language acquisition device. The organizer refers to the mental system that helps learners make sense of language input and integrate it into their growing linguistic knowledge. As learners are exposed to input in the target language, the brain works to organize and systematize these inputs, gradually building an understanding of how the language works. This process occurs naturally and subconsciously, and it explains why mere exposure to language, along with practice, can lead to language learning without direct instruction in grammar. For example, you learn the rule that in English, sentences usually start with a subject like I and follow with a verb like am going. Your brain organizes this information. So, the next time you need to speak, you can follow the same structure and form a proper sentence. And the last one is the monitor. The monitor refers to the conscious mechanism for checking and correcting language output. This process is conscious and requires time. The monitor helps learners to self-correct their spoken or written output based on the grammatical rules they have consciously learned. It's most effective in plain language use, like writing, but less so in spontaneous conversation where the time pressure doesn't allow for careful monitoring. For example, while speaking, you start to say, I go to the store, but then your brain or the monitor catches that I'm going would be more accurate in this case. You quickly correct yourself to say, I am going to the store. So, in conclusion, internal processing in SLA involves three key components: the effective filter, the organizer, and the monitor. The effective filters affect how receptive learners are to language input based on emotional factors, while the organizer or language acquisition device allows for the subconscious integration and understanding of language patterns. Lastly, the monitors enables learners to consciously check and correct their language output based on the knowledge of grammar rules. Together, these processes help explain how learners acquire and produce a second language. balancing both natural and conscious learning mechanism. So that's all from me. Thank you.